Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Slept On. This is Ed from vinylalbumcovers.com, as always. And today on Slept On, the series where we talk about songs you slept on. How dare you? No, it wasn't you. It couldn't be you. It's other people that slept on this. It wasn't you. In order to watch the stuff on this channel, you have to be too savvy for that, and you are. So it wasn't you. It was other people that slept on it. But today, did that make you feel better? I hope it did. But I wanted to talk today not just about a song that got slept on, and not just an album that got slept on, but a group that got slept on. Today we're going to talk a little bit about, as you can see from the thumbnail, we're going to talk about Chocolate Milk, an incredible R&B group that was out mostly in the 70s. That's when they got most of their recognition. They began life back in the very early 70s, like very, very early, as the Deacon Band. And then they knew that they needed a singer, and so they decided to hire one, and they did, in the person of Frank Richard, at which point they became Chocolate Milk. But the group is basically made up of Robert Debon, who was the piano player, the key player in general, the keys player, Mario Tio, who was the guitar player, Amedee Castanel, who's the sax player, such a great player. Love the guitar player too, for that matter, and Dwight Richards held down the groove just incredibly well. Just an excellent band. And then, of course, Frank was the singer. Frank Richard was the lead singer. There is this really, really good interview. I'll put a link in the description below. You can see it down there. And he did this 3-part interview where Frank did, where he talked a lot about Chocolate Milk's history. And the interviewer knew what he was talking about too, so he could lead him really well through it. So check out that interview. There's 3 parts of it. It's long. It's very, very long, but it's good stuff. I watched it before I did this because I wanted to learn a little bit more. I had some ideas in mind as to why certain things happened, and when I watched that interview, those ideas were confirmed. So I learned a lot from this interview, and just about everything that I know kind of about the innards of the group has come from this interview. So go watch it. Obviously, I don't have 3 hours, and I wouldn't dare take that much time. But it's a lot of it is in that interview. So check it out. It's really, really good. But wait till this video's done. Don't go yet. Just wait till this video's done, and then I allow you to leave. Then you have my permission. But anyway, so the band begins in the early 70s and becomes Chocolate Milk, and they released their debut record in 1974. For the first few records, they were produced by Allen Toussaint, the absolutely legendary New Orleans musician. The band itself is from New Orleans. The name Richard probably should have given it away, but they were just absolutely fantastic. They upstaged everybody when they were on stage with them. It was a mistake to share the stage with Chocolate Milk. That's just something you didn't do, because they were just crazy. Just an amazing funk group. And then just to kind of fast forward a bit, after Actions Speak Louder Than Words and Girl Callin' and songs like that were successful on the R&B charts and even a little bit on the pop charts. So it's 1980 at this point, and they're at a bit of a crossroads. And they haven't crossed over. They haven't really been as successful as RCA would like. If you watch that interview, and really even just if you know the history of RCA Records, they don't have a history with funk at all. They did not know what to do with Chocolate Milk. They did their best. They tried. They didn't sleep on them or do nothing. They did try. They were just in over their heads. And so by 1980, there were problems. The records weren't selling, and RCA started to get involved. And they hadn't done that up to this point. They were basically just leaving them alone. In fact, if you take a listen to that interview, even Allen Toussaint was basically leaving them alone. They were basically producing themselves, even though his name was listed as the producer. You can learn more about that in the interview with Frank, but by this point, RCA started kind of imposing itself, and they wanted them to have a producer that could cross them over and that could get them some radio hits. And so to that end, they hired George Tobin because of reasons. George Tobin had had success for sure. He had produced Smokey Robinson, Being With You, and he had produced Sad Eyes for Robert John. So who better to produce a funk band, right? So anyway, they hired him because reasons, and it makes no sense. It doesn't. You know it doesn't. Then the guy goes on a few years later to produce Tiffany. Like, you remember Tiffany? I think we're alone now. That Tiffany. On what planet does this union make sense? It doesn't. It's ridiculous. What a horrible idea. But they thought that he could help them get on the radio. And so he gets involved and brings in Mike Piccirillo and his stable of writers. And he even brings in a bass player named Kenny Burke, who had a hit with Rising to the Top. So he's an excellent player. No shade to Kenny Burke at all. But for Chocolate Milk, man, I don't know. But at any rate, he's a good player, competent LA player, and so they brought him in to play bass. Anyway, so they come together and they make this album called Hypnotism, which is decent in spite of George's involvement. You can hear him in the production for sure. You can hear him kind of in the textures, but the music is good. It doesn't really have any apologies to make. It's good stuff. But the goodest thing, yeah, I said goodest, and I'd say it again if you were in front of me. The best song on the album is called Dawn. Dawn is this absolutely lovely ballad that they wrote themselves, or if you listen to the interview, that Frank largely wrote. And that actually makes a lot of sense, because Dawn was clearly inspired by Frank's daughter, Dawn Richard. You know who Dawn Richard is. You know. She was part of the Making the Band reality TV series that was on MTV many, many years ago. And during that particular season, they were trying to form bands, two different bands, and they came out of it with a male band called Day 26 that had a couple of hits, and they also came out of it with a female group called Danity Kane. They even came out with a solo artist named Donnie Klang, who didn't fit in with the group, but they thought he'd make a good solo artist. They were wrong. He didn't, but they thought he might. He has talent. It just didn't work. Lack of promotion, really, for all three of them. Shame on Bad Boy for not promoting any of them the way they should have. I guess they thought the TV show was enough, and it never is. That never works. You gotta promote, and then they didn't do that for any of them. But at any rate, Danity Kane, of the three of them, was probably the most successful, and Dawn was one of the singers in that group. And to my way of thinking, she was the best of those singers. She had this, and has this beautiful kind of smoky contralto. It just sounds incredible. She has such a great voice, and I love the way she phrases. Just an excellent voice. One of my very favorite female voices. She's gone on to have, she was kind of in and out of Danity Kane, and they've broken up now, and she's gone out on her own, and she's a lot more interesting on her own. There's this trilogy of Heart EPs that she did that came out some years ago that are just fantastic, and she just continues to do this kind of edgy alternative R&B, and she's kind of following her own muse, and she's just the goodest. I said it again. I'd say it in front of you, but check her out. She's just amazing. But anyway, that's what that song was written for. She was just a young girl at that point, and Daddy wrote daughter a song, and how sweet it is. Very, very sweet song. I absolutely love Frank's voice. Frank Richard has one of my very favorite male voices of all time, and very underrated. But just the phrasing choices he makes are just beautiful. You know, you get to that B section, and all I know, it's you and I that can make our dreams come true. Just gorgeous, gorgeous lines. And all I know, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I can't do it for anything. Just the way he really kind of dives into that lower register he has. He has just complete and utter control and doesn't lighten it up the way I do because I'm not him. It still remains very heavy when he goes up into his register, up into his kind of mid-register. It's just an amazing, amazing voice. And by the end, when he's doing his ad-libs, it just feels so good. Like, just an incredible singer. Love, 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 love his voice. And that run he does at the end. I mean, it doesn't even make musical sense. I'm not going to do it now because I'm not Frank Richard. You don't want to hear me do that. But just absolutely incredible. Just love his voice. The only thing I don't like about the song are the mass background vocals in the choruses. And I don't like it because it's an engineer trick. It's not all those voices. There's enough of them to make enough of a noise. At least I think so. Like if you've got like 5 guys in a group, and that's really what it is, you can just take with Kenny. Okay, so it's 4. But no, 1, 2, 3, 5. I was right the first time. It's 5. My notes are in my phone here. I'm looking a little bit here at my phone. But you've got those voices. They can all sing. Just double track each one of them, and that's probably enough to make the noise. But I'm not exactly sure what was happening back there at the board. But the masked background vocals of Dawn, it sounds weird. It just sounds funny, and I can't quite. Maybe there was a phasing problem or something. I'm not exactly sure, but it just doesn't sound right. I've been listening to it all my life, and it's always bothered me. So this is the part where I tell you a story. You may wonder why I'm going through this particular song. Well, there's a very good reason for it. This song literally changed my life, and I'll tell you how, and I'll be as brief as I can. Many, many years ago, my father was absolutely obsessed with the American Legion, and there's reasons for that, but kind of has to do with his recovery from alcoholism, and this is kind of how he dealt with it, and it did its job. It definitely did its job. But he was specifically kind of an officer with the American Legion, Post 24 in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia. And it's still standing. And you can see that picture over here. You can see that it's still standing and operating. And it looks much the same way it looked when I was a kid. It just didn't have that open sign. But everything else is the same. I wonder if the card reader still works. I don't know. Anyway, it's right next to Gadsby's Tavern, and Gadsby's Tavern is amazing. And it's a really cool part of town. If you're near there, you should go look. Go check it out. It's cool. And we'll focus on the club room. So in there, they had a poker machine because bar. Why wouldn't you? And it also, at the time, it doesn't look as it did then. It looks quite different in there now. But it had a very long shuffleboard table, which was fun. Shuffleboard was always fun. It had a pinball machine in it. Various pinball machines kind of came in and out over time. And it also had a jukebox in it. This was like 1982, so I think I was like either 8 or 9. I was pretty young. And so in this jukebox, there was all the things that you would imagine you would find in a bar back in 1982. So a lot of the country things, you take this job and shove it, all that. And a bunch of Alabama things, play me some mountain music, la la la. But it also had some, a bunch of Alabama things. Dolly Parton, my mom had a thing for Elusive Butterfly by Dolly Parton, which I never understood. And it was the B-side of Save the Last Dance for Me, her cover of that, it's fine, I guess. She's no Benny King, but it's fine. And it's almost inhumane to hate Dolly Parton, and I could never. It's just not my cup of tea. But she's very talented, of course. You don't need to hear me say that. There was also a fair amount of pop in it, as I recall. I remember All Right by Christopher Cross was there. Sailing by Christopher Cross was there, as I recall. Urgent by Foreigner was there. What else? A bunch of things. It's been many, many thousands of years by this point. We're talking like 40 years ago. But there was a lot in it. But most of it was country, which did not hold my interest. But also in that jukebox, there was this, along with the Kenny Rogers things and all the other stuff I was telling you about. I forgot Kenny Rogers was in there too. But there was also a 45 that nobody ever played. If you don't know what a 45 is, please ask your parents. Never mind, don't ask your parents. It's right there. You can look at it, right? I have to tell you, it also had Hail to the Redskins in it. I'm not kidding. It had Hail to the Redskins in it, the vocal version. You remember the Redskins, don't you? They were a football team in the 1700s. I'm just kidding. They're now the Washington Commanders. But the theme song was just constantly played. They wore that record out. But at any rate, so in this jukebox, there was a 45 that was just never played. And it was by Chocolate Milk. And the A side was Blue Jeans, and the second side was Dawn. And I got curious about it one afternoon while I was there, and I got a quarter from my mom. I put it in the jukebox because I wanted to hear what this was. And I meant to pick the A side. And instead of picking the A side, my finger slipped. You can see the jukebox over here. It kind of looked like this jukebox, kind of the same number pads. You can see how a finger could slip. But instead of hitting A5, I hit B5. And I went, oh, well, at least I'll kind of hear what this sounds like. So I had to wade through 5 or 6 country things that made no difference to me one way or the other. And then finally, this song started to play, and it was just incredible. I heard Dwight Richards' drums come in, and it had such nice changes. And I remember it hit this one kind of almost jazz change. And I was captured by it almost immediately. Like everything in the room disappeared. And then I heard Frank start singing. And I just became obsessed. It was instantly the most amazing thing I'd ever heard in my life. And nobody else was in the room. It was just me and this jukebox. And I went over to the jukebox. I'd been sitting down. And I got up and I went over to the jukebox. And I just stared at it. Like I was having a moment, like a real musically transformative moment. And by the time the song was over, I knew that I was hearing something great, and I had to have more of it. So I went to ask my mother for another quarter, and I played it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And my mother was just putting up with this, just giving me quarters. And finally, I think she handed me like $2 worth of quarters. She's like, just once you spend it, that's it, which is understandable. I mean, this was expensive. I can only imagine how much worse it must be today. Probably $1 a play. But at any rate, I was taken by this song. The song was banging, and I knew it. And I've never heard Blue Jeans. I've never heard that song. I have the album. I bought it. I need to put it up on the site. But I've still never heard that song. I've never heard it. I kid you not. But the song just took me with it. It's just incredible. Everything about it. I have to say, too, I love Mario's guitar playing. It's just perfect. The counter melodies, things he would come up with were just gorgeous. And the bass playing is very nice, too. I got to give it up to Kenny Burke for the great playing, just in general. And the piano playing was just perfect. And it just felt so completely right. And don't even get me started on Amedee's sax playing. That sax solo was just beautiful. It felt very much of its time, and it was just the right thing. It wasn't overplayed. It was the right thing that you play. And so I just fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with the song. And it took me a long, long time before I finally got a 45 of my own. And I play it to this day. I still play that song, and I still love it probably just as much as I did back then. I've never, ever, ever become sick of it. I subsequently found the Hypnotism album probably about 10 years ago. I found one that I had to mail order. This was well before the internet and took over everything. No, it was about 20 years ago. Yeah, it was about 20 years ago. This was like 1993, almost 30 years ago now. Gosh. But I found it mail order from this, I think it was called Music in the Attic. It was in Pennsylvania, and I mail ordered it along with the 45 of the song. And many years later, I found a 12-inch, which sounds phenomenal, and that's what's actually, I have like a bunch of songs in my phone, and that's what's in my phone. And it just sounds incredible. So if you really want the song in its best light, find that 12-inch, that Blue Jeans 12-inch. Dawn's on the other side of it, and it just sounds fantastic there. So absolutely amazing song, and you've got to check it out. We actually have it here on the site. I did a video for it because I loved it so much, and I'll put that link in the description so you can go straight to it. But you've got to hear it. It's just, if you love kind of slow jammy things with that sound timeless, that don't feel like 1980, this is the track for you. I'm trying to tell you, it's just amazing, and it completely changed my musical life. From that moment forward, all I cared about was R&B, and that is the song that is responsible. So nobody from Chocolate Milk is ever going to see this, but just on the off chance, I just have to thank you. Thank you for changing my life. I'll always be grateful. And thank you, Frank, for having just the most amazing baritone. That's probably, other than Paul Williams from The Temptations, those are my two very favorite baritone voices. Just love Frank's voice. Love it, love it, love it. And you will too if you hear it. So go check it out. Check out all of Chocolate Milk. You really can't miss. They never made a dog album. Never. I mean, even when Friction came out, it's still a great record, which was the last one they did, you know. So they have no apologies to make. Their catalog is just, you just can't miss. So I've gone on at length, and I apologize, but I had to throw all this in. So thank you so much for watching, and please check the song out. Again, it's called Dawn by Chocolate Milk from the album Hypnotism, released in 1980 by RCA Records. So check it out, really. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate the fact that you guys are kind of taking a liking to these. I'm sorry this one took so long. This is actually my third time recording this. For some reason, I couldn't get satisfied with the content I was giving you. If I'm going to do these, they have to be right. And if I have to do them again, then I have to do them again. But I think I've got it now. So, so this is the one you'll see. So, but I really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you so much. Yeah, please like the video if you liked it. I would appreciate you telling me so. Tell me what you think of the song. Go check the song out and then come back here and tell me what you thought. I interact with everybody. If you comment, I will respond. I respond to every comment, so I would love to hear from you. And very shortly, I should also add, we're about to have something kind of exciting coming up soon for vinylalbumcovers.com. I'm just kind of working out the details now as we speak. But I kind of want everybody to get involved with us. I'm kind of trying to build a community of like-minded people, like-minded musical nerds like myself, and like Dre. So I'm kind of trying to build this new thing here. So stay tuned. Within the next few days, you'll see evidence of it for sure. So until that happens, though, thank you again so much for watching. I could never thank you enough. And keep listening to great music.